Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Magic and Miracles. Today, I am here with Kayla McDonald. And Kayla, before we get to introducing yourself, I would love for you to tell us the story about the magic and miracles in your life.
The magicals, the magic and miracles in my life. I was putting those together for you. Has been that from a very young age, 3, 4, 5, 6, I've been using storytelling and creativity. First, it was really a survival strategy in a difficult childhood. Then it became this tool for personal and spiritual growth. And I've realized over the years that writing has actually been the most powerful tool for creating magic and miracles in my own life.
I love that. So please take us back to a first moment where you could say, okay, this was really a magic and miracles moment, where something happened where you realized, okay, this is something that actually writing has done for me. This was pure magic and pure miracles.
The one that comes to mind first, this was the one that really blew my mind. So back in 2020, during the pandemic, I was about to marry the wrong person while I had very strong feelings for someone else. And this someone else happened to be a client at my personal training job. He was a widow. He had just lost his wife about a year ago. He was significantly older. And again, I was in my own relationship and very committed to loyalty, fidelity, all of those things. So this felt wrong and inappropriate on so many levels. So I decided during the pandemic, I'm just going to write a book. And this book is just going to be a fantasy book. It's going to be a shark shifter novel. And it's going to help me process these romantic feelings. Interestingly enough, something very different happened. Over the course of the pandemic, you have more free time, you're able to do deeper reflection. I realized that I could not marry this person that I was with, and that we both had very different values and goals for life. And it was in both of our highest interests to go our separate ways. So I ended that relationship. I completed the first draft of this book, and I completed that in maybe April or May. And then over the course of the next few months, I started going on hikes with this client, started getting to know them better. And by October, we were dating. And of course, I had to talk to my employer about this, explain the situation. And she was like, that's fine. You're a personal trainer, not a therapist. Like, it's cool. And I am now married to this man. And the really interesting thing is when I went back and I edited this book, I was in awe of how many parallels there were between that book that I wrote, completely from fantasy and imagination, and the relationship I then had. So that is the first example I can really think of where this happened in my life.
So tell us more. What did you write in the book and what actually happened that was like it?
So again, this was a fictional book, fictional characters, and the main character in this book lost his family in a car accident, and the main female character is a shark shifter. We have enough dragons and werewolves and whatever else is out there. And in this book, the male main character finds out that the female character, Indigo, is a shark shifter, and he accepts her anyways, and he loves her anyways, which very much mirrored my own worries and apprehensions about being in a relationship with this man because he was and still is obviously a very good man. Meanwhile, I had quite a dark past. And obviously, I'm not a shark shifter. Kind of wish I was, but I had that similar dark, gritty, less than ideal moment in my past that I wondered, would I be lovable? Would I be accepted? And I was, which was so magical. And then it was the playful dynamics, it was the energy in the relationship where it was very safe and very deep, but also at the same time, it was playful and it was fun and it was adventurous. So you really got everything in that one relationship.
Wow, okay. And so what were other moments that happened to you where you were writing and something actually, I don't know, maybe happened or whatever?
Another one, I moved to this new town in 2014, at the end of 2014. And at this time, I was working a job building windows. Um, and I knew that wasn't the job I wanted over the long term. I wanted to become a personal trainer. I had all my training, certifications. And at the beginning of 2015, I started writing a novel. And in this novel, quick side note, any author who says they don't write themselves into their books at least a little bit is probably lying to you. So the main character had similarities to me, and I gave her a job as a personal trainer. And as I was writing that book, the order file at the window factory went way down. And I thought to myself, if I want to pay my mortgage, I need a second job. And I found this ad on Craigslist for a part-time personal trainer position. So I applied, I got the job. And when I got the job, they said, actually, we have a full-time position. Would you be interested in that instead? So all of a sudden, I was able to leave my window building job completely and become a door builder. And then there are two other really cool things that came out of journaling processes if you're interested in those.
Yes, please let us know. I'm so curious now.
Yes. So the next one, this happened in 2021. And at this time, I was getting ready to leave this personal training job. I had loved this job for 6, 7 years, and I was ready to move on and wanted to start my own business. However, because of a non-compete clause, which is standard in these jobs, I had to take a second job for a year, which was fine. So I applied for one job, got an interview, and they asked when I could start. And I said 4 weeks because that was what my other employer wanted. They wanted 4 weeks notice to train someone else. This other employer said, that's a lot of notice. Can't you start any sooner? So I said I would talk to my employers and ask for 3 weeks. And I then went back and put my notice in for 3 weeks and reached out to this other job and said, okay, I can give you 3 weeks. I hope that's okay. I'd still love to come work for you. Radio silence, complete dead silence. So now I'm thinking, oh my goodness, now I have no job. Now I need to find a job quickly, or I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage. But I sat down and I journaled because that's my daily habit. That's the thing I do not skip. And I journaled about how I wanted the situation to turn out. So I journaled that I knew that there was the perfect job coming my way. I knew that it was all going to work out. And I kind of wrote about how I wanted to feel, how I wanted everything to turn out. So I wrote that. And then I just went down and laid down on my bed and just took a bit of a nap because I was feeling all the things. And during that nap, about 10 minutes after I'd written that journal entry, I got a phone call. And it was a phone call from another job I had applied to. So I was talking to them on the phone and they were explaining the job. They were explaining it's 410, so you'll get 3-day weekends, or you can work overtime and make extra money. There's RRSP matching. And as soon as I heard all this, I'm like, yes, I want it. And they said, okay, well, wait, why don't you come in and make sure you like the job? I'm like, okay, come in and make sure I like the job. So I go in and look around at the job. And it was interesting because they had two jobs and one paid more than the other. And it was a door building factory. So I figured, oh, the one that pays more, it's probably really technical or heavy lifting. I'll probably have to do the lower paying job. So they show me both jobs. And the lower paying job is you're basically like pushing stuff through a conveyor belt slowly all day long. And I thought, I mean, I could do that for a year, but I'd hate it because I'm a very like high energy, like let's go kind of person. So they take me to the higher paying job position. And it's fast paced. They're building doors. It's like meditative, repetitive work. There's targets they have to hit. You're always moving. And I thought to myself, so the higher paying job is also the more fun job. What is the catch? So, needless to say, they hired me on the spot. And I actually worked there for way longer than expected because I loved it. So I wrote that journal entry, and it actually led to me manifesting this job that was actually my favorite job out of any job I've had in as little as 10 minutes. So I thought that one was pretty cool too.
Oh, I love that. And would you say you are a believer in the law of attraction, or have you read any books on that, or have you kind of figured this out through the course of you writing things?
Definitely read books on the law of attraction. I've gotten into Abraham Hicks. So I am versed on it and I love a lot of it. And I find that the act of writing on a consistent basis, especially keeping their principles in mind, is such a powerful way to bring this to life on a daily basis. Because one of the challenges I had with some of like Abraham Hicks and the law of attraction is okay, but what's the how? What are the practical steps? Of course, then I found ask and it is given, and I realized they give you so many practices. So I was like, thank you. And to this day, journaling and writing in this way continues to be one of my favorites, along with those practices.
I love asking it is given as well. I'm reading it for the second time right now, actually, too. So, what is your journaling process now? How has it evolved and what is it now? And what can you tell our listeners of how to do it so they can also manifest through writing?
So, I can give you the rundown. If anyone wants to dive deeper onto this, I have a four-part series on my podcast, Embodied Writing Warrior. And I think if they Google Embodied Writing Warrior Journal with the Elements, they'll get all four of the different entries. So I start with fire. And I don't know if you're a tarot person, but I pull a tarot card every morning and I reflect on the themes that are in that card, what kind of psychological work I might be called to do that day. I don't look at it as much as like a prediction tool because then you'll pull up like the two of swords or the five of swords and be like, oh, well, now I'm going to have a crappy day. Really, you can take those cards and say, okay, what are the lessons and themes I can actually use to evolve and grow through? So that's the element of fire. I'm kind of connecting to spirit, wisdom that comes in the form of tarot. And then I move on to the element of earth. And that's where I connect to my body. And I think this is such a powerful part of journaling that gets missed in a lot of practices because we live from like the head up in so many cases. So when we actually take a minute to breathe, to notice what sensations might be present and write about those and actually feel them as we're writing about them, that is such a powerful tool for just body awareness. In that element, I'll also write about this is what my day looks like. These are the practices or the daily tasks I would like to get done. So it's a way of grounding into a structure for the day as well. And then I move on to the element of water. And that's really about paying attention to the emotional weather. So it's not bypassing any emotions, however positive or negative, because I don't really believe in positive or negative. It's letting yourself feel what you want to feel without conditions. And once you've done that and let yourself feel it, you can also do another bit of a journal entry in water about how do I want to feel? What do I want my default state to be today? Do I want it to be peaceful, expansive? Do I want to feel grounded? Do I want to feel not just grateful, but reverent for how good this life is and how good it gets to be today? And then I move on to air, which is really where you can tap into this law of attraction, ask and it is given. So there's a lot of different things you can do here. Sometimes I'll do what I call hacking the hologram, which is something I first heard from, I think, Autumn Brienne. So I'll actually write little scenes about what I want to see in my future. And I'll write about the dialogue. I'll write about where I am. I'll try to get all the five senses involved. And I'll make it fun and playful and really exaggerated. Like, what if it got to be this wild 2 years from now? What if it gets to be this fun and magical 1 year from now? And then I'll sometimes write scenes where I work backwards. And so there you're not just tapped into the here and now because you've already done that work, right? You've tapped into earth, you've tapped into water. And then you also just get to play in the energy of where do I want to go? While you're still so grateful and present for where you are now and accepting where you are now. So you have this beautiful blend of being pulled towards the future you desire while being completely grounded and present and grateful for where you are now. So that is my four-step journaling process that I have been doing since about 2021. And as I mentioned, I will not skip that practice. It is the most important one in my routine.
That is beautiful. And I also have to say that so many things I've been writing about have actually come true and have manifested into real life. And I think it gives a physical component of whatever it is that you want to manifest. Because, like, some people are just saying, imagine it in your mind, go through the scene that you're imagining, da 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 da. But when we actually put it down, it does something to our brain that it makes it feel more real. And also, obviously, where I think maybe if for the old school people of us, we like the feel of paper and of a pen and pen on paper rather than just putting it into your computer. So that also does something for me.
So I'm not gonna lie, I use my computer because I have this program I use called For the Words, and it's basically a role-playing game for writers. So you have these monsters, and they're like 600 words, 400 words, and you get to like do these battles and go on quests. So that is definitely my practice. But you're right that when you actually sit down and write by hand, there's something so grounding about that practice too. So I do always mean to do that one more than I actually do.
Yeah, and then you also don't get distracted on anything on the internet. But also, I love how this app, can you tell us the app? Because anything that is gamified is also great for our brain. Like any process that is gamified, you will be more likely to do it. And those monsters sound like sound like fun.
Yes. It is called For the Word, so it's the number, and then thewords.com. I have been using that since 2019, and it really does gamify a writing or a journaling journey. So they have this concept where you actually build a street, and your goal is to write 444 words every day. And most people can do that on a computer in 10 to 20 minutes. So it's fits into a busy lifestyle. And what's really neat is as you build your streak, you have these wings and they grow over time. So you get to day 15, you got these little sprout wings with some leaves on them. You get to day 30 and your wings get a little bigger. You get to 2 years and you've got these flaming wings that go all the way down to your feet. And it just really rewards that consistency, which is something that I think is so magical. That compound interest, the slight edge effect, I think that is one of the most magical parts of life. When we commit to something over the long term and watch those compound results kind of exponentially grow over time.
Absolutely. I so agree. And so now do tell us about yourself a little bit. What is it that you do? Who are you? Who is Kayla?
So I am a writer first and foremost, obviously. I'm also a food freedom and embodiment guide. I'm a dance alchemist. So as I mentioned, I did leave the health coaching field in 2021. And what was interesting was that I found when I left the health coaching field, I became the healthiest and fittest and most confident that I've ever been. And I had to do a lot of excavation work on why that was the case. And I found that there were a few key places where the health coaching industry, not always, but in many cases, an unhealthy relationship to it can actually create more emotional eating, more self-sabotage, more cycles of inconsistency and burnout, and even just more body image challenges. So the work I do now is I still help people transform their relationship with food, but I don't do it in those traditional ways because most people at this point, they know what to do. They know what foods to eat, they know what workouts would work, and then they're struggling to do them because of what they call self-sabotage. But what it often is actually is a lack of creative expression, a lack of harmony with the inner world because we have many different parts and some parts might not feel safe for us to have these health or fitness goals. And oftentimes, for a lot of high performing big visionary people, it's not about the food. The food's actually a red herring. And what they're actually struggling with is visibility, fear of judgment, fear of rejection. So I still help people with the food piece, but I do it in a completely unconventional way.
I love that. And I find that in my own work as well. Definitely. And I wanted to know, do you also help your clients? Like, has anyone manifested their weight loss through writing as well?
That remains to be seen. So I have personally seen great results with the work I've done. So after struggling with binge eating since I was 6, 7, for the first time since starting to do what I call the food freedom fantasy method, I went 68 full days without a binge. And this was in the middle of a lot of stress, a lot of chaos, getting ready for a move. I broke the 2 hour mark on a half marathon after 13 years and 13 failed attempts. So this was a big deal. And I also finally got the courage to break through a lot of my own fears of judgment and my own fears of being rejected, not fitting in, all of those different things. So now I am currently running the first beta round of Food Freedom Fantasy. So we've just started. We actually started Sunday. And now I'm testing out this beautiful modality I've created with 5 beautiful souls. And I that in 12 weeks that I'll be able to tell you that yes, they did manifest some of the things they wrote down in their journal entries.
Of course they will. Of course they will. I wish you the most success for this and for your clients as well, because I'm sure it's going to work. Okay, Kayla, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you wanted to say? Anything else about magic and miracles that you would like to share?
I would just like to encourage people to write on a daily basis and then also keep track of their writing over time. Because I think sometimes what'll happen is we get so pulled into the next layer of our vision of our future that we forget to realize, wait, this was the life I was dreaming about 2 years ago, 5 years ago. And that was something that I actually just remembered myself over the weekend. I was watching an old Q&A call from a course I took part in spring of 2024. And he was reading something that I wrote. And what I wrote was something about how I wanted to have our debt completely paid off. At the time, we had maybe 30, 40K of debt. I wanted to have financial freedom. I wanted to have a bunch of money in savings. And I wanted autonomy over my schedule so I didn't have to work so hard. And I re listened to that on the weekend. And I realized we now have no debt, not even a mortgage, financial freedom. Me and my husband both are taking 6 months off from any job because we have that ability. And I listened to that and I was in awe thinking, I wrote that 18, 19 months ago, and then it came true. So it can be such a powerful practice to have a way of going back and revisiting the things you were wishing for 1, 2, 5, 10 years ago, and then being so grateful when you notice, oh my goodness, these things came true. I am that powerful of a creator. And when you start to notice those things and appreciate them, what you appreciate also appreciates, and you tend to get more of it. So that would just be one more thing I would definitely recommend.
I love
And
that. Yeah, go ahead.
the only other thing I would say is if you do want to see what magic and storytelling and personal growth all look like fused together, I do have my own podcast where I kind of do similar things. And there's like 200 and something episodes at this point, in case people wanted to learn more.
Amazing. And if people want to call in more magic and miracles with writing in particular, what would you recommend to them?
I would recommend, I do think the journaling with the elements is such a powerful practice because the magician in the tarot card, right? He has the earth, the air, the water, and the fire. He's using it all. And that's really what we're doing with this journal with the elements. And then the other thing that I've really been having a lot of fun with and seeing the energetic shifts from is doing those scenes that are set 2, 3 years in the future and
Mm.
letting them be big and letting them be extravagant and just making them fun. And as you're writing them, feeling the feelings that you would feel if you were actually immersed in that scene.
I absolutely love that. I am doing the same, sometimes with writing, sometimes without writing. So I really, really love that tip. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for your time and your energy and your wisdom and your knowledge today. I really appreciate you being on and for taking the time. Thank you so much, Kayla.
You.
Okay. Actually, I forgot one question. Let's just hit that question. Um, so Kayla, where can people find you?
So they can find me embodiedwritingwarrior.com. Podcast is on there. There's a gift, all that good stuff. And then I'm also on Instagram at the same handle, Embodied Writing Warrior.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. I shall squeeze that in.